I know things might seem like they suck right now if you're a Democrat, but really you should be grateful. It's some of the greatest times to be alive, some of the greatest times to be an American, because your nation is peaceful and prosperous. All Americans, across, even though you try to push identity politics, all Americans across all the little identity check boxes that you try to create are actually prospering.
The New York Times is slamming the president, saying he's courting the black voter he did during the speech. They wrote this. During a speech peppered with theatrics, Mr. Trump's overtures to black voters were not subtle. His gestures earned him accolades from his administration, but others criticized Mr. Trump's checklist-style approach as pandering. What do you think?
That's hilarious. I mean, look, I've had this permanent tan my whole life. I didn't just put it on in a makeup room. I've been around black folks in the black community my whole life. And here's what I know. Whenever, every 2 years, every 4 years, every election cycle, what happens is Democrat members come in to black churches and they start pandering. Somehow they all seem to develop some Negro dialect, right? And they all start singing old Negro spirituals and hymns, and then they leave and they don't come back for another 2 to 4 years. What the president has done is he's actually talked the talk and then walked the talk.
And Christopher, ultimately, do you think the black community is going to support his, his overtures and what he has done so far, or will it be one of those things like we've seen in the past?
Iceberg dead ahead. That's what the Democrats need to realize. There's an iceberg dead ahead of you. And see, the DNC has some problems within their big tent, rather. They like to act like they're a big tent, but the reality is there's a hierarchy within the DNC, and a lot of black folks are starting to realize that they're at the bottom of that hierarchy when it comes to priorities. Even when they had their perfect candidate, Barack Obama, what happened for black folks? Nothing. What's happening when you have conversations with the average black person, what we say in whispered tones is like, hey, Obama didn't do anything for black folks. That's what's happening. That's the conversation that's taking place in the black community. Democrats are starting to realize it. Van Jones is telling them this. They're scared. And they have every reason to be scared.
Christopher, really quickly, he got 8% of the black vote in the last election, 2016. What do you expect it to be this November?
It wouldn't surprise me if it doubled. And in fact, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it went over 20%.